Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Jordan Bleeker, and I am the Sales and Marketing Director here at Westminster. We are very excited about today's webinar, but before we get started, I have a couple of reminders for you. Remember that the audio settings are in the left lower corner of the presentation window. This is where you can adjust your volume, so make sure it's on and turned up. Also, be sure to use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. Kim Reese, our residency counselor, will moderate a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. As always, know that we're recording this webinar and we'll send out a copy to all of those that RSVP'd just as soon as we can. So during today's webinar, we are diving deep into the Austin real estate market. I'm sure you've heard how hot and fast moving this market is. We have brought in Clay Byrne of the Byrne Real Estate Group to discuss what this means for you and your home. Clay and his team have been in Austin for 25 years, and they are experts on local Austin neighborhoods and current market trends in the area. They have the innovative solutions to help you comfortably move from this phase of your life to the next. Clay, are you ready to get started?
I am, Jordan. Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. And can you hear me okay?
Oh, it looks like you're muted, Clay. One sec.
Yeah. I think I'm unmuted on this end.
Okay, maybe it's mine. London says that she can hear you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so it's an honor to be here with you, ladies and gentlemen. I can't see you, you can see me. So I will just visit with you a little bit about, for the next 20 or 30 minutes, about what's going on in the real estate market, some things that you can expect, some things that are new that we haven't seen in the real estate market for a long time, or ever really. And then a little bit about our process, and then how we can tailor fit it to fit your needs. So why don't I just jump in and get started. So as Jordan said earlier, we've been around for a long time. We moved to Austin in 1977. And I've grown up here basically ever since, back in the days when you could drive through the Trail of Lights, Aquafest, all the fun stuff. And it's just changed dramatically ever since. It used to make me a little bit grumpy the way things have turned out. But as we've progressed through this and there's no end to it, we've met some really amazing and extraordinary people. So there's good with the bad. And at this phase of, when people start talking about selling their property, any kind of real estate that they own, then all this demand just increases the value, right? And recently it's just gone crazy. What we'll talk about today is just where things are, what it means for you. And we'll probably repeat some of the things along the way. Because there's some pretty important pieces of this, especially to you and where you are. And I know time is mostly the big deal. Time and money is always what people are most concerned about. So let's take a look at what things are doing right now. Over the last 12 months, really the last 18 months, property values have literally increased by 40%, give or take, some even 50%, just in 18 months. I don't even know what to compare that to. What we've seen is since June, things have plateaued a little bit, and we're starting to see some settling in the pricing, at least for the time being. What's nice about that is right now is it appears that 40% increase is basically here to stay for a bit. So it's leveled off. And some of the some things that we got used to that we'll talk about in a minute, those appear to be here to stay. So let's jump in. So just to look at the numbers, just in the overall Central Texas market, since June to June, from June 20 to June 21, a year ago, homes on average were worth $275,000. Now on average, they're worth $482,000. That's a 43% increase. That's across the board. That's not having any parameters other than just the basic geography of Central Texas. The things like And by the way, when the coronavirus hit and all that was going on, nobody ever anticipated that this was going to happen. So we were really surprised. We had to react very quickly to what was going on. We had about a 3-week kind of free fall pause, and then we just hit the ground running, and it has been like running around with our hair on fire ever since. What's happened was the pendulum in the real estate market was, in a sense, it was in the buyer's favor. They could demand things after inspections. They could negotiate prices. They could demand that you be out by a certain time. They could ask you to fix things. They could ask you to lower the price based on a bad appraisal. Nowadays, that pendulum in the last 12 months really has swung way over into the seller's favor. And we'll talk some more about this. We'll get specific about this in a minute. And so, and we're expecting things, it's a pendulum. So we expect things to kind of swing back and level out a little bit. But right now, sellers get to call the shots, and it's made the market so interesting. Literally, homes have been selling for, anywhere between $5,000 and like $1 million over what they were asking, just depending on where it is. I mean, it's been bananas. You'll see what I find the most interesting out of all of this is in June 2020, 4,000 homes sold. In June 2021, when we're having a supposed inventory shortage, 4,369 homes sold. So actually more homes sold. It's the velocity that this is happening that's causing, the angst and the stress and the anxiety for a lot of people as we kind of move through the marketplace. The average days on the market here, you'll see it dropped a full month. So literally homes are on the market for 46 days a year ago. Now it's 13 days. And half of those 13 days now are spent negotiating a bunch of the offers that come in. So really, it's like, if you're a buyer and you want to buy a home in a premium market area, which where most of you guys live, you ladies and gentlemen live, you've got to get your offers in quickly. And you have to be educated about the type of offer you put in that a seller will accept, which would be you. Now in the Central Texas area, and I mean like Central Austin, like, just Central Austin, where a lot of people have lived for a long time, and now they're getting to the phase in their life where they're trying to figure out what to do next. In these central areas, the median sales price a year ago was about $1 million. 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago, the median sales price was $1.5 million basically. So it's almost gone up 50% just in 12 months, y'all. 50%. We're seeing a lot of, I'll talk about the types of buyers here in a minute. Basically the same number of homes sold, a little bit less. And then the average days on market obviously is a lot lower. And those, again, half of those days that are on the market, those 8 days there, those are, half of those are spent negotiating deals. So it's really just lightning quick. And it still is for the most part in the Central Texas area, the Central Austin part of Central Texas area. So let's talk about like kind of what that means as a seller. So basically there's more agent. It's hard to really explain kind of what happened. There was a big shift from, it used to be when a buyer wanted to go see a house, they could just start seeing things, learning the market, learning what they would be able to buy in different parts of town. And then they'd go get qualified, and then they'd go through their process of inspections and appraisals and all that. And that meant that the seller had to have the home available and clean and repaired and, really looking fantastic to try to attract these buyers to their home to make an offer and close on the sale. Well, then the pandemic hit. All of a sudden, only qualified buyers were allowed into homes. There's a lot more agent accountability, a lot more conversation and communication between the agents, between the lenders, between the appraisers to make sure that the process was a safer process by way of the pandemic, and making everybody more comfortable with that. That's the sellers and the buyers and the agents. I mean, everybody wanted to make sure we were masked and gloved and cleaned and qualified, and it was the right person was looking at the right house. So it limited the amount of foot traffic and the time on the market. So buyers had to start getting prepared before they were even able to enter the marketplace, and that's still going on. So you have cleaning stations in the house. You reserve times throughout the week you make the house available to show it. And we're starting to even see, to limit even less people going through houses, people are using, and we've been doing this for a couple of years, but using their camera or their iPad to do video tours of the properties. I expect a lot of these kind of innovations and new things that are going on. We expect that to stick. Frankly, it makes everybody's job a lot easier, only working with very qualified buyers that can prove they have the money. They prove that they have the lending. They prove they have the desire to live in the area. So that's really made that whole, open houses. We still like to do open houses, but generally you can just reserve a block of time throughout a week and say, this is when we'll make the home available to the qualified buyer, so that you don't have to be ready to go at a moment's notice when somebody pulls into the driveway. Those days have really, it's not quite like that anymore. So that's helped. When we get in negotiating, some of the things, for the most part, what's most important for sellers and owners is the time part of it. Yes, we want the money. We know you're going to get the money, some variation of this 40%, 46% increase. But how easy is it going to be to like transfer your life into a new spot? And what's happened in the new normal here is the shift of the seller control. So the seller can, what's probably my favorite part of this is when a buyer goes out and they want to get, if they're not able to pay cash, they've got to get a mortgage. And part of a mortgage is the appraisal. In the past, if an appraisal came in and it didn't meet the price that the buyer and seller agreed to, it was up to the seller to like make it right, so to speak. It was wildly unfair. It's still wildly unfair. You couldn't control or have any input on what the appraisers like decisions were, what the numbers they came to. And it was really problematic. Now what's happened is the buyer knows that if they want you to accept their offer, they're going to have to be totally responsible for whatever the outcome of the appraisal is. That's been a major stress relief off of sellers for the most part, because those appraisals aren't getting done until almost the very end of the process. That's how busy they are. Nowadays, you worry a lot less as a seller, a lot less about the appraisal, because you have a document that says the buyer's not going to try to make this your problem when you get down the road. I've seen that work 99.9% of the time so far this year. One time the gap was so bad that they just didn't have the money to cover it. We had to get a little bit creative on that, and we did. But that's an outlier. In a rapidly increasing market, another thing that can happen is when you pick a price that's reasonable based on the information that we have at the moment, if you don't get any offers you like in the beginning, you can actually wait a little bit longer for somebody to get that price, or take a little extra time for your salesperson, your agent, to educate other buyers on why they want to pay, or why they'll need to pay a little bit more, and get them feeling comfortable with paying like tomorrow's price for the house today. Certain areas we can still do that depending on what the property is. But that's that's more of that shift to the seller control. A great thing about this market right now is that, in Austin and Central Texas, foundations shift, things, kitchens get old, bathrooms get old. And the way things have gone with so much money coming in from like California and Chicago and Florida and New York, and here, heck, even here in Austin, you don't really have to do a lot of work to get your home prepared for the market. The value's in the location, the land, for the most part, 90% of the time. And also a lot of the other percent of the time, buyers want to remodel it and make it their own. Again, it depends on the neighborhood that you're in, but it used to be you had to repaint and do a bunch of work to the house and fix cracks and drywall and ceilings and floor shifts and all these other things. Nowadays, really, you just have to get it cleaned up and let people kind of visualize what it might look like, and then let them deal with it after they close. We're seeing a lot of buyers really, the buyer caveat emptor, when it was just buyer beware, and then it became the seller's problem. It's back to, it's just the buyer. It's up to you. Here's the price I want. In a lot of instances, sellers are able to sell their house, close on it, get the money, and then they're able to live in the house generally up to 59 days. We've seen some that are longer than that, depending on the type of financing the buyer has to get. But you have the option now, and this is probably my favorite part, because it takes a lot of the stress out of packing and moving and figuring out where you're going to go, and you got to do all these things, but you need the money from the sale of the house. How are you going to do that and alter your financing and rack up credit card charges and all these things you don't really have to do anymore? And it's made the stress level of the process, as long as it can, like, that expectation can still be met at the time you go on the market, it's been fabulous. It's really like, that's probably been one of the best parts of it also, is the sellers now, they're not just like, they don't have to go make rash decisions on what they want to do, where they want to be, how they're going to get out, all those things. And then we're also seeing the buyers paying more of the seller fees. Sometimes they'll even pay the commission, the title policy. So it's just more money in your pocket and it's easier to get to right now. That's probably the basic point of all this. You get more money and it's easier to get, and it's a little bit less stressful. This is an interesting slide. I was curious about, because we hear this all the time, like, how long is this going to last? What's next? What do we need to anticipate? What's the future hold? And I got to tell you, everyone says you buy at the bottom and you sell at the top. Okay. And if you look at the GDP, and this is just a kind of a generalization of the economy in the United States of America the last 50 years. And when I saw this, some things started to make a little more sense to me. If you look at it, on the bottom line there's red bar graphs and there's green bar graphs. Okay. And I'm looking at it with you right now. If you look at the end, 2020, there's a big red graph that goes down, or bar that goes down. And that is the GDP. Everything just took a major stall, except for real estate and a couple other things, majorly stalled out. And if you look at the history of these things and throughout the United States, you'll see that where there's red graphs going down, right after that, there's almost an equal green bar going up. Okay. And so I can tell you in 2021, and we know this from the stock market and a lot of the reports that we're getting, most industries are bouncing back and we're going to have very good growth. We already know that we had very good growth in the real estate market. So I expect that 2021 will have a higher annual change over in the GDP. Okay. I think most of you would agree with me, or some of you might, I don't know, but that's kind of what we're experiencing right now. I think the next thing that's interesting about that, if you look at the history of it, when you see a big, tall green graph, right after that, you either see flat or just a little bit of growth, or a little bit, a couple of them, there's some negative growth right after that. So if I were to like extrapolate that information into today, I would say 2021 will be extraordinary, and it has been for a lot of people. In 2022, I can expect it to be a lot less, somewhere between a lot less than extraordinary, even, or not great. And then you can see after that, for the next 4 or 5 years, it basically evens out. I've been through these bubbles twice in my real estate career. The good times are like right now, and we know that the rest of it, because it's already getting weird. The world, if there's weird stuff going on in the world right now, we're thinking that things are about to get somewhat interesting. So again, if you're thinking about selling now or in the near future, unless your plan is to stay somewhere for the next 5 years or so, you should really be thinking about it right now. Based on this information and what I know to be going on in the market right now, like, you sell at the top. And guys, we just went through a 46% increase in most of the central Austin areas. I don't know how much better it's ever going to get. Not really sure what else to say about that. I mean, and then honestly, it's like, we'll see. I mean, right now, literally on June 2nd, when schools shut down, if you went to the airport, it went from being a 20-minute get through the security line to like 2 hours to get through the security line, because everybody had different priorities. Now we've got the Delta variant back and a bunch of other geopolitical stuff that's going on. Like, there's some uncertainty out there that could really start to cause problems. Now, Austin generally has been a little bit insulated from how bad it gets everywhere else. But when you've got so many people moving here, and we went through this both times, 2002 and 2008, 9, and 10, when the other areas get hit as hard as they get, it affects Austin, because those people that need to sell their property in other areas and want to buy here, they can't do that. So they turn into renters, and then the process gets longer and longer. The types of buyers we're seeing right now, it's very tech heavy. There's a lot of cash. There's a lot of builders and developers and investors moving into the Austin area. They've been doing that for a long time. And the pandemic's really just like compressed the time that everybody's decided to move here. And so we're seeing it's a lot of that. And you've probably noticed all the different license plates on Mopac and some of the other areas when you're driving around. I mean, there's New York and California and Florida and Chicago, Maine. I saw one today. So we really, like, Austin's just become a melting pot. It's one of the #1 destinations in the world right now. We get phone calls from Saudi Arabia and from France, Bahrain, Germany. We get them almost every single day, different people calling and asking, like, what's going on in Austin? What do we need to know? But based on this information, if I'm a seller and I've got to sell something in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm selling it soon. Let's talk about what the, so that's basically the real estate market. Also, at the end of that, I have to give you the caveat. It's like, I honestly don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next. I could just tell you based on like how today went, like what it's going to be like tomorrow, probably. These markets are funny. They move quickly now because the information is so accessible. But you know, history repeats itself, and that's what we're kind of preparing a lot of our clients for, and getting them ready kind of to move along. How it would work if you wanted to find out more about this is you just let us know. You can call us and I'll get you the information here. We come by and just do kind of a free consultation. We'll talk specifically about what's going on in your neighborhood. We'll look at what your property is. We'll figure out who we think the buyer is going to be based on all our experience. And then we'll talk about after you've committed and you've talked with Westminster and they let you know like when you can move in to the spot, then we'll be able to work backwards on what the time is. What the time frame needs to be and the work that needs to get done. One of the benefits to working with our team is that I've got Bailey and Christine and Stephanie, and I have a whole buyer team that is, everybody is segmented and trained and providing a concierge service or a white glove service to help you get from this part to the next part. And that's like, you know, we talk about the time, we talk about the money, we do a little analysis so you can figure out how much money we're talking about, even including capital gains taxes, their estimates, of course, you'll confirm that with your CPA. But we put together a spreadsheet and we give you the probability that these things are going to happen based on the market. So you know what your money situation is. And then we talk about the timing, and 9 times out of 10, you've got a lot of stuff in your house or some stuff in your house. We've got to figure out how to get packed up and moved and what to do with it. And if we need to do an estate sale or go commission some things at the galleries or just give it to Goodwill, whatever it is, we manage all of that for you if you want us to. It's all included in our fees. We don't charge any extra. So once you decide on what you'd like to do with Westminster, where you'd like to be and what your time frame is, then we work backward on that based on what's going on in the market. And then we just execute. Next thing you know, you've just picked up what you need for a couple of days. The movers have moved everything. You've got your money. You just walk right into Westminster and you start playing with your new friends. I know there's a lot of information here. And one of probably the most important part of this, I think, is that like, good job for holding on to your house for 1 year, for the last year, because you made a bunch of money. The second part of it is that right now you can dictate the terms and the time in which you sell your property, and we can help. Obviously, we'll help you do that. So like the timing of this almost could not be better for you to, if you're thinking about it, to execute this plan and then move into Westminster. And really all you've got to do is just set up a time with us for me to come by, and we'll visit with you about what we can do or what it would look like to actually get it done. And then you do it. And here's the phone number and the email address if you'd like to reach out and set up a time. The first consultation generally takes about an hour, and then we'll figure out what would need to happen next. And I am ready for questions. Anybody?
Okay. Can you hear me at this point?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So you kind of just answered this, but I want you to go through it again. If I want to start planning to move to Westminster, when should I put my home on the market?
Yeah, the easiest answer to that is right after Labor Day to the end of the middle of December. Historically, that's been the second best time to do it. I think right now there's a lot more uncertainty out there, I think, with like the geopolitical and the economic stuff that's going on, that like I don't really know, other than interest rates. This is such a hard question to answer, and everybody always wants this one answered. I would say like we just went through 46% like appreciation increase. Like how much better do you want it to get? So instead of risking it and trying to time it at the absolute top, you just get your home prepared, I think that most of us live in like Central Texas, Central Austin area. You're in an area that's always going to be in high demand. So you just figure out what the timing is to move into Westminster, and then we work it backwards, usually between 60 and 90 days. And then that's when we start. When I come by and give them a consultation, we'll talk about what we need to do to get the property ready for sale. It's not very intrusive and it won't be complicated because the market doesn't demand that right now. So aside from just saying now and sounding like self-serving, I would do it soon. We've just gone through an amazing increase in what's going on in the market.
Okay, that makes sense. I know it's a hard question. What is likely to happen with capital gains taxes? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, because that's the next piece of it. What's likely to happen if it's your homestead? You're probably going to be okay. Like we're not expecting anything to change there. So if you're single, it's $250,000, and there's some caveats to that that's protected. And if you're married, it's $500,000 tax-free capital gains on your property. So if you paid $500,000 for it and it sold for, $800,000, or $1 million, that $500,000 gain there, even though there's fees and stuff, we're not talking about that. That's tax-free money, and that's it.
Okay.
So what we do is we'll do a quick calculation, and it's a rough estimate. It's pretty accurate though. Of, here's the sales price, the fees, what you owe on it, if anything, and then sales price, fees, what you paid for it, any capital improvements you can document throughout the ownership of it. And then that way you can know like how much cash you're going to have and your general tax liability, if any, that's left. So, like kind of precisely how much cash we're talking about. So I know that's important.
Thank you. That was helpful. Okay, how about this question? Since your fee covers things such as helping set things up for consignment, estate sale, etc., how much is your fee, or how do you come to what your fee is going to be, if you will?
It varies, but generally you can just figure it's 6%, 3% to the buyer agent, 3% to us.
I see. Okay, good. Thank you. What are your basic thoughts on the demand of a house? So we're talking about like North Cat Mountain area, maybe turnkey, new deck, pool, greenbelt. It sounds really nice. So I would assume it would go pretty quick.
Yes, so the answer is yes. That's a high demand area because there's so many things, like they've got beautiful trees and there's a heavy community influence up there. A great location because you can hotshot basically anywhere in and out of Austin. Great schools, public schools, private schools over there. If you'll just let me come by, I can literally be there for 20 minutes or 10 minutes and get an idea and just say, this is what I think it's worth and this is it. And then that's it. There's no pressure. I know you guys you want to make a major decision here, and we're not pressure people. I just want to give you the information so you can make an informed decision, and that's it.
Right.
It's really hard. It's hard for me to shoot from the hip. I'm guessing that most of you live in high demand areas.
I would.
Yeah. So it's more just about like, how easy is it going to be? How much do you have to do? Very little in our opinion, or our goal. And then like, what's the process going to look like? Our job is just to make it as easy as possible for you so that you give us an amazing Google review or send us to your friends. We just helped Jan McEnroy. She moved. I hope it's okay if I say her name. But like, if you just talk to her about what the process was, she's like my new best friend.
If you're able to vacate your home before you put it on the market, how important is staging, given the market and the way that it's going right now?
Yeah. Staging is helpful. There are some houses just have funky floor plans. And if you can, staging helps with that. If it's like, let's just say it's a flat lot, it's a gorgeous one-story house with beautiful trees, and someone's just gonna, I don't know, maybe knock it down, or they're gonna, if they want to remodel it, then there's no staging. But if it's a house that's like, it's good enough to be lived in later, and there's so many variables to that, but staging important. We have the staging companies and the contacts to bring in on that. And they're like shockingly not that expensive. We can even do virtual staging. It just depends. It's not as important as it used to be,
Okay,
but it's still
thank you.
helpful.
Thank you. Another question, since the market is slowing a little bit, is that then in turn going to make, I guess, spiffing up your house more important, do you think, or do you think not really for a while?
Yeah, that's a great question. Buyers are always evaluating features and benefits for the money. And then they're also evaluating like how many other people are they competing against when they're trying to buy something. And then if it's a builder developer, you're competing against like, what can they sell it for later? If it's a home that's just going to be a tear down, there's really nothing to worry about. If it's a home that somebody could live in, or they can live in, or it's like perfect for them, then some of those things start to matter. I haven't really remodeled like a bathroom or a kitchen for somebody or recommended that in a couple of years, especially in the central Austin area. So really, I think it's just painting and cleaning and flooring are like the most basic things, and decluttering. And like you don't even need to paint some of them. It just depends if you've had pets, somebody smoked in the house or whatever. There's just so many variables that go into it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Here's a good question. What is the ratio of homes available on the market compared to buyers?
Oh, there's a lot more buyers than there are sellers. Let's see, every 7 days, about 650 homes are selling. And that's, I think I checked that this morning. And there are currently about 4,000 homes for sale. This is the general central Texas area. And when I started back in Lakeway a long time ago, before we had email, there was, at that time, there were like 12,000 homes on the market, right? And it would take like 5-6 months to sell. So we're seeing it's still a very robust seller's market. An issue is that people are used to their homes selling in a week. And so if a home is on the market for like 11 days, I'm not kidding you, buyer agents will call me and say, what's wrong with the house? Why is it on the market for so long? I'm like, it's 11 days. I'm like, that's not a long time, but just expectations have just shifted so quickly. So there's still a ton of houses selling. I mean, our phone rings nonstop, and it's mostly buyers looking for property.
Wonderful. Wonderful. What suggestions do you have for couples who know they're not going to move into Westminster until spring of 2023?
Yeah.
What should they do now?
I guess that question is like, is now the time to take the money off the table and pocket it? Or is it going to be the time, in a year from now or a year and a half from now? I don't know the answer to that. I know it's okay now. I think it'll be okay then. Otherwise, if you've got somewhere to move in, if you got another home or a kid you can move in with, or a friend, or like if there's a place you can go. It's all about that. It's like, how simple will things be for you for the next 2 years? I mean, you already got it good where you're living. So like, how do you want it to go for the next 2 years or year and a half? I think that's the question. It's not really, the money's going to be what the money's going to be. So I think you figure out what's going to be the easiest for you. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. Can you shine some light on what a leaseback option is, kind of how they work, and are they a turnoff to buyers or not necessarily?
Buyers are mostly anticipating it right now that they're going to need to give a seller a lease back. It used to be lease backs for like 5 days. Now they're more like 30 days. Some of them are 59 days. The 59 number is important because certain buyers, if they get financing, that's the most they're allowed to get and still get that owner occupied type approved financing with the best, mortgage terms. Anything beyond that starts to get a little fuzzy. People want to be in their house. If you've got a really exceptional property or it's in really high demand, you can get that, and some people will let you. The terms vary from like you can stay there for free for 5 months, you can stay there for free for your life, to you got to pay my mortgage every day that you're there. It just depends on how it gets negotiated, but it's a lot more acceptable, and the term of it is longer than it has been in a long time.
Great. Okay. Is Zillow or Redfin, websites like that, are the prices that they indicate your home might sell for close to accurate, do you think? I mean,
yeah, sometimes. I mean, so when I go on an appointment, I look at like what the county has you assessed, what Zillow says, what Redfin says. I look at what I think. I don't use them to like figure out the prices, but I do like to see like where they think things are. So you can get a general idea, but when I meet with you or anybody, I'll say, listen, I'm going to give you to like today's price, but we're not going to fill in the price on the listing agreement until we get to like a day before, or we're going to be able to adjust it. The day before we go on the market, I'm looking at the information. I'm telling you what my experiences are, how busy our office is, if it's crazy, if it's crickets, whatever. And then we pick that price then. So those guys lag generally because the information takes a long time to get filtered through all their algorithms and things like that. And mine's like real time, like on the spot, real time, what's going on. But you can use it. I mean, if you're just looking for like a basis to start thinking about things, you can use it.
Great. Thank you. Okay. I think this will be the last question. Would you review again the services provided when you are when you're going to be the realtor, all the services that you kind of rattled off that you provide?
Yes. It's basically whatever you need. We've been around for a long time, so we have vendors just through everything. And in order to be somebody that we refer business to, like they have to have been in business for a while. They have to stand behind the work. They've got to charge a fair price. I've got to have quick access to them. So if we need to move stuff out, if we need to donate to Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul is a popular one for us. If we need to do paint, if we need to do roof, we need to do some air work, or if we just, we need to pack you and move you, if whatever it is that you need, if we need to do yard and clean things up, all the trees, everything, we have them. So we'll manage it. We make sure the price is right. We'll either include it in the fees, or you just pay for it along the way. It's just whatever you need. Like I recognize I have a group of professionals built just to what do we need to do for these folks so they don't have to be totally stressed about this major change they're going through. And so I want to say we do everything. As long as it's legal, we do everything, right? We just we want it to be easy for you. You deserve it, right?
I think that's huge. I mean, my personal opinion, this is Kim, but I think that is huge because we all know how stressful people think it's going to be to make a move. And the fact that you can provide those resources and take a lot of that off the seller's shoulders, I think is a tremendous value.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and we've been doing that for a long time. So it's really, we just put the plan, we just basically call it our strategic meeting. We just put it together and just execute it based on your time.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I think that would be very helpful. I know with those that we work with, that would be very appreciated.
Yeah.
Clay, thank you so much for your willingness to catch us up on what's going on in the marketplace and what we need to do when we're considering just selling our homes.
Yeah.
For those of you that need a realtor, hopefully many of you right now feel free to call Clay Byrne. I'm sure he and his team would be happy to help you. Just as we are here at Westminster, we are thrilled that you took time out of your day today to attend the presentation, submit your questions. And I speak on behalf of the marketing team. We really appreciate you, and feel free to give us a call. We'd love to help you as well here at Westminster. And we look forward to hearing from you and meeting with you. And Clay, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for including